back to Burnout Brighter. Today we're going to be talking to Josh. But before, I know I forgot the whole spiel about what we're about, but if you don't know what we're about by now, I mean, come on. But we are a podcast that likes to talk about gaming, mental health, social justice issues, and everything and anything pop culture. But Today, we have a special guest, Josh, and he's going to be telling us all about Team Kaizen and what he does and what he's done for his community with PlayStation. And we're super excited to jump into it. Guys, did you see how excited I was? You saw that?
So
You saw how
excited.
excited? I was pretty
I
excited.
felt it.
Did you feel it?
I'm Matt, by the way.
I was going to say it.
I'm Matt. I'm your co-host, Matt. Nice to meet you.
This is my co-host, Matt.
Hi, everyone.
Oh my God. Can I not introduce the guest first and be hyped up? This is my co-host, Matt. You guys know him. My wonderful, not trying to fuck with me co-host, Matt.
No,
and never. And before we jump into it, Josh, can you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah. My name's Josh Hughes. I'm with Attitudes Entertainment Company out of Great Falls, Montana. And we're home to Montana's first two PlayStation and Xbox certified game studios, Team Kaizen and Ingenium. And our whole thing got started back in 2002. It was the year I graduated high school. My brother was going into 7th grade, and a friend pressured him to try out for football. And he kept failing the sports physical. And eventually they told us, okay, he needs to be on these meds right now and emergency surgery by Friday. What we found out was that apparently this was going on his whole childhood, but the lines that connect your kidneys to your bladder, called the ureter, were identically kinked on both sides for him. And it backed urine up into his kidneys, and he was nearly poisoned to death. Like, they told us, had we not discovered it then, he was months away from keeling over.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and it was a nightmare for the whole this is all finding this out 3 months after graduating high school. So we had to go medically bankrupt. We lost everything. We moved in with our mom's parents, and it's been kind of a long road since then. Like, he's had over 70 surgeries. We tell people we stopped counting at 70. But he's in dialysis 3 times a week now, and people always ask, oh, is he going to go for transplant? And the thing we always tell people is that transplant's not the fix that you think it is. It's more of a Band-Aid, because the average transplant lasts about 5 to 8 years. And once your transplant fails, then when they go to match you for a new one, they can't just match you anymore. They have to match you and every person who's ever donated to you. So it becomes progressively harder each time. And so instead, what he's holding out for is the University of California is, like, I think they just hit human trials, but they're building a thing called a bionic kidney, where they take your stem cells and make a baby dialysis machine that's always inside you. And that way there's no fear of rejection, because it's your own cells.
Right.
Okay. And there's no chance of failure. So you don't have to worry about going through it all again in 5 to 8 years. So he's like, you know what? I'd rather do a few more years on dialysis, wait for them to perfect that, do that, and then be good.
Mm-hmm.
But a few years into it, Mom and I were sitting in the waiting room while he was in the surgery. And I told her, normal's not working for us, trying to live a normal life and trying to, do the 9 to 5 thing. I was working a call center at the time where, if you called into a place and got that this call may be monitored for quality assurance, I was the dude doing the monitoring. And we decided that we were going to take our love of video games and turn it into a job. And there's this woman that found out, she's now the director of tourism for our city, but back then she was with our small business center, named Rebecca Ingham. And she reached out to us and told us that if we were serious, she would teach us how to be entrepreneurs. And that began a very long road of learning how to be entrepreneurs, learning how to build a team, learning how to refine a concept of a game. And it got to the point where, our first big victory is that we were the first company in Montana allowed to go to E3 on our own credentials. And
That's incredible.
We've been to 10 E3s. That's been a ton of fun. And then we initially started building a relationship with Sony, because we just met more people on that side. And then now we're slowly trying to do the same with Xbox side too. But we got to do some really cool stuff. Like, one of my big nerd outs, not from a developer side, but from a gamer side, is I got to be in the room that E3 at the Sony press conference when they announced the Final Fantasy VII remake.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so exciting.
And the jacked up part about that is that, with our staffers, we had this long running thing that we would always tell our staffers, if you're going to go to E3 with us and you're going to go to the Sony press conference, because we could get tickets, you need to not go in expecting a Final Fantasy VII remake, because we had several staffers doing it for several years, and they'd walk away disappointed. We tell them, you know what, you're setting yourself up for disappointment expecting that. Then they announced it, and I had staffers on either side of me, and I launched out of the seat so fast I almost threw them to the floor. And then mom got video of Trevor full on breaking down crying, and it was it was awesome. It was like one of my most memorable E3 moments, period. But and then
that's incredible. Final
Oh,
Fantasy
yeah.
VII is my favorite out of the entire series. Like if you listen to the podcast, it's the one game I talk about the most, and
That's all she
Streets
talks
of
about.
Rage.
Oh yeah,
It's not all. I talk about Streets of Rage.
I'm like a nut for 7. Like I even have the, kind of wonky fighting game that Square did, Ergites, where you like can play as Cloud in the Final Fantasy
Oh
VII
my
cast.
god.
Yeah,
I love it.
It's a wild. It's like the game that they did is like a collaboration with the Tekken team, but it doesn't play like Tekken. But it has characters that are kind of loosely, at least back in the PS1 days, they loosely pretended that they might be from the Tekken world. Although I think Namco would probably deny that now.
Yeah.
But it was wild. It was just like the fully 3D game where you can run around and beat the crap out of each other as Tekken style characters and Final Fantasy VII characters.
It's like Kingdom Hearts before Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And they were trying that meta stuff way before then, including with the kind of semi-confusing storylines and all the stuff we love. And yeah, you guys can't see it because like behind where my webcam is, I actually have the entire Final Fantasy VII shrine. Like Trevor and I both saved up with Remake. We both like set money aside and got the big Cloud on the bike editions. And
nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so dope.
Yeah.
You have to take pictures of it. We have to see it. Like I can't just hear about it. I need visuals, Josh.
I'll send you pictures afterwards. Yeah.
All right. Dope. We might post those somewhere, guys.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's dope. All right. So moving right along, we're going to be asking everybody like what they've been up to. So first, I'm going to start with Matt because obviously he got jealous that I didn't introduce him.
Yeah.
So Matt,
what? Me?
What have you been up to recently?
Oh my gosh, I'm so not used to being asked questions. I'm just not even sure what to say. I've been playing a bunch of War Tales. We talked about it a little bit, but it's the review will be going live tomorrow. So that by the time this goes up, it'll be fine. I mean the review is up. Go check it out. It's awesome. It's dark. It's messed up. It's heavy. The game is really like a lot at points, and it really kind of just drops you in and says, go figure things out. Do you want to help refugees, or do you want to slay them? Do you want to team up with the farmers, or do you want to kind of let things be? And you can just go out and hunt and make money that way, or you can do whatever it is. The game kind of really lets you play it however you want. It's a little bit rough around the edges just because it is still in early access, so there are certain things that like stand out. But yeah, I've been playing a bunch of that. Along with, I keep playing Shin Megami Tensei 5. That game is awesome. It's a lot of fun. It's, again, I don't know why, I'm just in the space of like dark and dour lately because SMT5 is not a lighthearted game. But like it's giving me like almost like Jujutsu Kaisen vibes at certain points, and like it's my first SMT, and as Persona being my favorite series of all time, it's interesting to see the kind of distinction between them. The combat's a lot of fun, and it's the friggin' dialogue and conversation systems are still fucking gobbledygook. I still don't know how the fuck to do it, because basically what you can like talk, you need to talk to the monsters and basically choose the right like conversational points to get them to join you. And it's like it's always a complete crapshoot knowing what you want to say to these things, and there's no real indication of what the correct answer is. So learning that has been really difficult, and I say learning with a huge asterisk because usually I just pay them off until they join me. Because I don't know how the fuck else to get them. So that's been really awesome as well. And I keep just obsessed with Halo Infinite multiplayer. It's just a lot of fun. It's really, really good. But that's basically been me on top of wedding planning and shit, which I mean, we recorded next week's episode yesterday, which is a bit of a, it breaks my mind a little bit because we're going to be gone. We're going to be out in Mexico doing fun wedding stuff. But yeah, that's been me. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. So yeah, that'll be that. That's me.
All right. And Josh, what have you been up to recently?
I am super late to the party on this. I know some people are going to get a chuckle out of it, but about a month and a half ago, I finally got into Among Us and have really gotten addicted to that. And it's kind of funny because I know it took off with a lot of kids. And the thing with us is that, on top of all the stuff we do a lot of game design camps with kids and stuff. Mm-hmm. And as a side effect of that, I've gotten really used to how kids think when they play games because, they would develop games in the camp. We would watch them play it and get their feedback. And that has kind of become an evil secret weapon in Among Us where like, for instance, like if I'm like the imposter, one thing I've learned, especially from the camps, is that kids, if they get on like a certain vibe, let them go and do it. So I'll let them talk just enough where they start blaming someone else. I'll be like, oh, so who are we voting for? And so that way they think I'm the part of the we, and they never suspect me. And I feel kind of
Oh,
bad because
poor
it's like,
kiddos.
yeah,
Nah, you gotta if you're playing Among Us, you gotta use what you can. It's all that warfare.
yeah, and like it's it's so bad because I'll if you're like multiple imposters, you'll see another person that doesn't understand that, and they'll immediately jump in chat and be all like, "It's absolutely not me," and I'm like, "You realize you're putting a spotlight on yourself, right? Like
Right.
let them
Yeah.
theory craft, But
So
I
where
was
do you
gonna
like to play? Because I know it's pretty much everywhere now. Where do you like to play? Like, do you predominantly
um,
play online, or do you play with like friends often, or your brother, or what?
primarily online. Like I'm one of those
Mhm.
weirdos. Like I'll even play, I play Apex Legends a lot, and
Nice.
I primarily play with randos. So like I have people that kind of like one friend of mine is this really awesome lady. If you ever want me to introduce you to her for your show, she'd be awesome for your show. Her name's Kashana Gray, and she's like a um, professor. I believe she has doctorate level, but she's at
Holy crap.
University of Kentucky, and she talks about issues about like race and gender identity and online spaces and all that. And she's even been featured on like Good Morning America and stuff about it. But like she would sometimes crack up following me on Facebook because if I have an issue where I have like really dumb random teammates,
Uh huh.
I will like live stream it on, not like stream the video, but like live commentate it on Facebook about, okay, this is what they're doing now. Oh, here's how they're dying. Like one time, like the one that I know that she had a riot over was I got with two guys and I was relatively certain they may have imbibed in some substances beforehand because they were obviously kind of
Nice.
tipsy. I died trying to protect them, and there's all like three or four different squads shooting out at each other.
Uh huh.
And I'm seeing it through their point of view now because I'm waiting for them to revive me. They actually went into a little shack and they both hit the crouch button, crouched in the corner, and were screaming and crying into voice chat, like crying it like they like as if they were actually in real life danger. And they won. Like all the other teams killed each other,
Ah,
and they
because they
got
couldn't find him.
yeah, like all the other teams killed each other, and they got the champions thing. And I'm like, how? And I'm like,
This
There
is
you
my
go.
strategy in
yeah,
every FPS game I play. I try to find the most decrepit area that nobody's going to look in, and I just chill.
yeah. Well, the weird part though is like that shack had weapons and stuff in it, so there was like reason to go in there. If you'd have just opened the door, they would have been right there. But they
Just
seriously,
Oh,
cowering.
yeah,
they were
they
just
just kept,
lucky.
yeah, and they were like screaming in chat, like, "Oh God, help us!" and like crying and stuff. And
Oh my
I'm
god.
like, okay, I believe
That's
in you. Go out there and
intense.
aim the gun. Like,
They
That's
must have been on
intense.
something good
Yeah,
to have that
yeah.
kind of
That's
reaction. So,
intense.
yeah, and I'm in dumb shock, and I'm just like watching, and I'm like, I can't even believe we won this. But
well,
Dumb luck.
I
but I
guess
was gonna
that's it was a good thing you protected them, right? Because I mean,
yeah,
it led to the win.
yeah. And I was gonna say too though, like Persona, like Final Fantasy VII is like my favorite game of all time, but Persona 5 is like right underneath it.
Yes.
So I was gonna say like, I actually, to my nerd cred, I platted P5, P5 Royal, and Strikers. So
Nicely done. I
Ooh.
only platted P5R. P5. I don't know how you finished that Persona Compendium, man. I looked at that. I was like, no,
it's
no.
hard. Well, and the one that took me forever was like in the original vanilla P5. Like you actually have to do an optional fight against the Twin Wardens, and it's one of the
Hmm.
most ridiculously unfair fights you'll ever do in a turn-based RPG. Like it's just evil.
It's
Like one
broken, man. Yeah, I feel that.
yeah, like well, and I saw a thing. I wish I could find the article too because I've had to explain this to a bunch of people. But someone somewhere online actually data mined the game, and they
Uh
found
huh.
that there was a hidden mechanic in that fight that they never tell you about, and it's never used in any other fight. But they split the fight up into like chunks of 6 turns,
Uh
and
huh.
every chunk of 6 turns, you have to do a certain amount of damage to the twins, or they get an immediate automatic win. And they never tell you what the damage is. They never tell you if you're past that. So you just
That
have to
seems
always.
very OP and annoying.
Oh yeah, and once they taught you that in the article, you're like, oh okay. Now that I know that, make 3 people be the tank and 1 healer, and just
Yeah.
stick to that, and then it becomes easy. But otherwise, you would never know it, and they would just get a random automatic win, and you would be left scratching your head like, what the hell happened? And
Yeah.
thank yeah, platting P5R doesn't require anything crazy like that. Like when I saw
Yeah.
that was not on the trophy list, I like screamed very loudly, like in joy, like yes.
Yeah.
But like I was gonna ask because I've been trying to ask people online. So many people are very kind of touchy on the subject of comparing P5 to Shin Megami Tensei 5 because I was like trying to
Mhm.
ask people. I'm like, I've tried Nocturne a couple times and it didn't really click with me the way Persona did, and I was
Mhm.
worried about spending the money on not on Shin Megami Tensei 5
Mhm.
without knowing if it would actually click with me the way Persona did. So does it click more like Persona?
It doesn't, honestly. Like
Oh,
I
okay.
like SMT5, like you gotta kind of work to love it a bit. I didn't immediately fall in love with it. Like the world is more dour. There's like it doesn't like I don't know. SMT fans get really really picky once you start bringing up this conversation. But it
Yep.
really just does lack the heart that Persona has. It's a much more dark, dour affair. And like I said, like one of my biggest gripes with the game is just because the way that the conversation works, it's a central mechanic. It's the way that you get other demons more often than not. But like the world is beautiful, the combat's still fun. It is still your Persona SMTS combat. So if like, but the combat has to be the biggest sell here.
Yeah.
So like if you like the combat and you're looking for like a more traditional JRPG that's much more focused on combat and then the world around it is there. With like again, and like the story is very heady. It's very angels and gods and demons and devils. So like it's very heady stuff with a lot of combat. If that sounds appealing to you, I would definitely tell you to check it out because the game is quality, but like it doesn't have the same immediate catch that Persona does, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like one of our programmers, Raven, was actually cracking a joke with me about it online, saying, "Oh, be careful asking people that, because you'll set off the piranhas. If you
Yeah.
dare say that Persona 5 is more popular than Shin Megami Tensei." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm being careful
Yeah.
because
It's a lot of
I've
very
seen
salty
people."
SMT fans. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a couple explosions on Twitter where I'm like, "Oh my god, she was telling the truth," and like I was just like watching, like, I'm one of those people that I don't even, for instance, I love Final Fantasy 7, but I'm the first one to, crack a joke about, Aerith dying or whatever that,
Hmm.
like where one of my favorites was back when the PSP game came out and Kotaku had an article where they had a picture of Aerith and they just put a giant arrow, said insert large katana here. And like it's one of those things where you feel bad laughing about it, but
Yeah.
it's kind of like an old Yeller joke. You have to laugh, but
Yeah. Cover
where
up the
like
pain.
yeah, and it's like it kind of blew my mind that that I wasn't seeing that similar reaction out of that. So I was like, okay, I'll be careful. But when you brought it up, I'm like, oh, cool, someone I can ask. But
Yeah. Yeah. It's a fantastic game. It's just like you have to know what you're getting yourself into a little bit more.
so it's very similar to Nocturne then.
I haven't played Nocturne. This was my
Oh,
first SMT. I tried to get into SMT4 and I couldn't. And then this is my first one that I'm like giving it a proper go. And like it's a bit more work to enjoy it, to be
yeah.
honest. But like it's clicking the more time I spend with it. But it does,
Cool.
for me, Persona was like I'm in right away. This is very much like I'm like 12 to 14 hours in, and I'm like I understand the appeal and like I want to see where this is going, but I'm not like oh my god I have to play it right now every second of every day like I am with Persona. If that makes
Oh
sense.
yeah. Yep,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah. What about you, D? What's been going on? What's new?
I've just been listening to you guys. That's all. There's nothing else been going on. Just that.
Mm-hmm. And then.
Really, I nothing else has really been going on. Packing for the trip.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, did some Christmas shopping.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Ate
Mm-hmm.
some leftovers.
Is that one of your new shirt sweaters? I can't tell
No,
what it
this
is.
is actually from Super Combo Man from the
Oh,
game.
that's so dope.
It's
Oh, nice.
old.
It's a cool shirt.
Yeah,
I have never seen
it's
that one
from.
before. It's nice though.
I've never worn it. I left it
Well,
here
that
in
explains it.
Tennessee. Yeah, but yeah, it's Justin's company in Terabang.
Mm.
So that was the game they came out with.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really all. I'm sorry, guys. I'm pretty boring today. I haven't really done anything.
No
Well, we've been,
worries.
I watched.
busy.
I got some tacos.
Okay.
Oh, that's good.
Did you
They
watch
were
more
delicious.
Arcane?
No. I mean, I will at some point, but no.
Okay.
It just doesn't excite me, Matt. It's not
That's
exciting.
fine. That's okay. I respect your opinion.
All right. But I will try. I've been seeing so much art of them, so like I might I
Mhm.
don't know, maybe after the wedding.
Fair.
Okay.
Cool.
Sorry. But okay, moving. What I do have something. I know I just apologized, but this is so random. So I realize I say sorry a lot.
It's very Canadian of you.
Yeah. And I
Mhm.
was getting like a Pokeball and like it
A
was taking a
Pokeball?
Pokeball, yeah, Pokeball. Yeah. Not a Pokemon ball,
Okay,
like
that's all I'm
a
thinking of. I don't know what you're talking about.
Pokeball. It's like it's like sushi but in a bowl.
I have to look
Pokeball.
this up. You keep talking.
Poke. Okay. So, it wasn't even us that was being slow. There was like a huge order before us and then like a little order, but I kept apologizing. So you know what it is.
I got it
I
now.
kept apologizing and then the guy was like, "I think you just like apologizing." And I was slightly embarrassed, but without thinking, I was like, "No, no, that's not it. Sorry." And then
Yeah.
I
Nice.
can't help it.
Nice.
I just keep
Nailed it.
apologizing. Yeah. Anyway, so moving on. Josh, we have some questions for you. But before we do, because I think I forgot to ask at the beginning, is can you drop the information on where our listeners can find more out about Team Kaizen, what you do, and all of that? I know you
Yeah.
mentioned you had a Twitter.
Yeah. Twitter is ZookeyTK. That's ZOOKEYTK. Zuki's always been my online handle. And for whatever reason, it was taken on Twitter. So I added the TK for Team Kaizen on the end.
Mm-hmm.
But our main website is teamkaizengames.com. And that links to like our YouTube and all that. Our main Twitch channel is Attitudes. That's ADDATUDEZ. And we're trying to get back into more doing streaming stuff. Like a lot of times we've been using like YouTube and TikTok, and I'm Zuki TK on TikTok too, to primarily show like latest that we're working on with like our characters and stuff, and like just bits and pieces of development. But we're hoping to get, especially in the next year, get more into a swing of doing more full length things. And then for schools and stuff, we do streaming through groups like Streamable Learning and Out School, and a little bit of Twitch on that front too. But like for instance, we just got a grant where we're doing some presentations to schools on the importance of diversity and inclusion in game industry and tech.
Hell
Nice.
Yep.
yeah.
That's a
So we're
great topic.
Oh yeah, and so we're doing that for like the next month. Like it's sponsored by a group called If/Then that like they're primarily about highlighting women in tech roles. Although
Mhm.
like we're kind of expanding it to more all kinds of diversity to because we want
Mm-hmm.
kids of all backgrounds to see that.
Mhm.
But it's been really cool working with them so far. And like our first talk is next, like, well, we're doing one like this week online to a school, but then we're going to actually go out to a rural school and do an in-person presentation. And one of the things that we love to do that's kind of fun is that we take Little Big Planet and use it as a replacement for PowerPoint and build presentations inside of a video game and then show that to kids, so that way it's a little more engaging than a typical PowerPoint.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. That's a really cool idea. But guys,
Yeah.
we'll have all those links. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off.
you're
We're going
fine.
to have all those links down at the bottom so that you can find out more about Team Kaizen and Josh and his brother and like the
Mhm.
incredible games that they're making and the progress that they're making within their community, which is awesome. Which kind of rolls me into my next question.
Yeah.
Like, tell us a little bit. We watched the video about you getting PlayStation in and like all the kids being excited and like what I guess what I want to know is what inspired you to do that, to like branch out of just being a developer. And please tell us the story about how you got PlayStation to come to your town because that was incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, when we first started our company, back in 2006, our primary goal was we wanted to make a fighting game. Because like Trevor and I, especially me, like we loved the kind of 3D fighting games from the early 90s, or well, more mid 90s, like PS1 era.
Mhm.
So stuff
Mm-hmm.
like Battle Arena Toshinden, Bloody Roar 2, Power Stone, like stuff where you could actually, your environment mattered just as much as your opponent. So you actually had to think about where you're at. And so
Mhm.
we knew we wanted to do something that was over the top and kind of brought that style of fighting game back. And so we started concepting an idea called Shattered Soul. And some of that took, ideas that we've had for years, including stuff that Trevor was sketching in his sketchbook and just creating a story around it. And we started trying to figure out how to build a team around that. And like, as we were working on that, of course, Sony announces and releases Little Big Planet, and I fell in love with it because I'm obsessed with rides and roller coasters, and so I would actually go learn about how rides and roller coasters work, so I could go build them in Little Big Planet. And
That's so
then,
cool.
oh yeah, and all right, you said you guys are based out of Tennessee, right?
No, Matt's in Canada, but me and
Oh,
Jackie are in Tennessee right now.
oh, okay, yeah. So, like one of my crowning achievements, and I'll send you guys the video of it, but in California, there's a coaster that's one of the technically the most complex roller coasters on Earth called X2, where like there's 4 separate tracks to the actual track that you go along. 2 of the rails support the car that's your seat. The other 2 move a metal bar up and down to rotate your seat so they can actually make you look up or down and all that while you're flying through the air at 60 miles an
Oh
hour.
my God, this sounds.
Holy crap.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's before you add in the fact that they have onboard audio and fire effects and all that. Like they use Hollywood flame
Where is
cans.
this?
Magic Mountain, Six Flags Magic Mountain in California.
Oh, okay. Oh,
And so
shit.
I
wanna
actually, like my crowning achievement was I recreated it with onboard audio and all in Little Big Planet, including fire effects and all of it. And I had people like hyperventilating in the comments going, "Oh my God, you recreated X2." So
That's
That's
incredible, dude.
dope.
yeah, I'll send you guys the video.
Please,
Yes,
yeah.
please. Guys,
But-
we'll link it to you too because we know you want
yeah.
visuals. Yeah.
Yeah. But so in the process of that, Sony teamed up with this group called Haystack out of Duke University, and it's short for Humanities, Arts, Science, Technology, Advanced Collaboratory. And they were like, hey, we want to reach out to the Little Big Planet community. Can you build a level that teaches people about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math? And I had a bunch of rides that I hadn't released to the community yet. So I was like, well, what the heck? I'll just put them in a straight line with little ride attendants that explain things like positive and negative G forces, centripetal force, all of that.
Mhm.
And didn't think much of it. And then I get an email a few weeks later saying, you're one of our top winners. We need you in New York City in 2 weeks to accept a grant to take your 1 level idea and turn it into a 15 level experience for kids to play online, and it's still online. So that totally blew our minds. And like when we went out there, we didn't just like accept an award. Like they took all the winners and we had to go through kind of a educational thing where it was at the Games for Change Summit, and they had us take classes on how games could intersect with education. And we were really intrigued by that. But at the same time, we were, we still kind of bought into this thing that's really prevalent in the industry, and unfortunately in a lot of ways still is, where a lot of people assume you're either a normal game studio and you make games for gamers with no educational content whatsoever, or you're an educational game studio and your target is classrooms, and your games don't need to be fun.
Yeah.
And those 2 industries have like evolved completely separately from each other, and they don't really listen to each other all that much to learn from each other. And so at first we were kind of scared about that, going, you know what, we really like a lot of what we're seeing here, and we think we want to be involved in this, but we don't want to give up Shattered Soul. We don't want to give up our dream fighting game. And then after a while sitting around thinking about it, we're like, that's kind of a false dichotomy though, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's not written in stone. Why do you have to follow that? Why can't we be both a normal studio and an educational studio? And that's where we kind of coined the term teaching studio, where we tell people that even when we're doing non-educational games like Shattered Soul, we're still teaching people because we're showing them what we're learning through developing it and learning the business side of it, the pitching, all of that. And then we're like, okay, well, that if we're going to be a teaching studio, we want to have a game in development too that kind of incorporates STEM a little more directly. And we were thinking about a bunch of different ideas. And then one year, we're watching our city's 4th of July fireworks display, and it kind of hit us of, hey, we could do a music game where you blow up fireworks to the beat of music and somehow incorporate the periodic table, because the periodic table is how you actually make different colors of fireworks. It's like different kinds of metals and minerals that make those colors. And that led to the creation of our game that's in early alpha now.
Close your
Burst.
mouth.
No, I just keep getting my mind blown over and over again. It's
like,
so I'm learning.
You're so distracting right now. Okay, keep going.
It's all good. But and so that started a long process
You
where
dumbass. Sorry.
It's all good.
No, you don't.
It's all good.
Okay.
like so it started this long process where like we made a prototype out of Flash, and it was kind of in like the dying days of Flash, so it was really adventurous. Like our poor programmer that was helping us, like Flash would crash and he would lose between 10 and 20 hours worth of work at a time.
Oh God.
But we got the prototype far enough along where we could show it to people. And originally it was way overly complicated. Like we not only had them, blowing up fireworks, managing the periodic table elements, but we also had like this asset management sim thing going on with it where like you
Okay.
had to worry about how many shells you had left for the entire performance to make sure you spread
Oh
them out over the performance.
God.
Yeah,
Uh,
and in gameplay it stressed people out, and so we let people be brutal about it and tell us what worked, what didn't, and we just would write it down, and we would go back and one of the first things was we were like, screw this, we are moving to Unity 3D because Flash gave us too many tiers. And
right.
so we moved it to Unity, and we would build a build, let people play it, and then take their feedback back and fix it until we got to the point where people like stopped complaining about the gameplay and actually loved it. And the only feedback they were giving us was make it prettier. And
Mhm.
that actually kind of led to a thing that we teach kids about that we call play to pretty, whereas like if you're building a game, get it playable in ugly mode first and then just test it
Mhm.
over and over and over again with people and iterate it based on their feedback. And then once they're no longer talking about the gameplay, then you can worry about making it pretty, because at that
Right.
point the art won't be trying to duct tape over bad gameplay.
Mhm. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
actually really smart. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I've run into other indie studios that have wasted a lot of time. Like one dude I saw once, I can't remember how much money he paid, but he paid a person to make like this Star Destroyer ship, like massive in scale, and it had millions and millions of polygonal sides on it because the artist didn't really know what he was doing, so it was way over detailed. And they spent
Mm-hmm.
a lot of time and money trying to get it to work, but without realizing you can't actually import it into a game engine because it was so over the top with how detailed it was, and
Too
it
high
wasn't,
poly.
yeah, like to an extreme, and so they couldn't even get it to work in a game engine. And so like stuff like that, well, we always tell people, start simple and work your way up to that, because
Mhm.
otherwise you'll end up crying a lot of tears over stuff that's wasted and stuff that could you know potentially be like looking like it was final game content, but it can't be used because it was the foundation underneath was broken all along. So but um so now we're to the point where we're like trying to get burst out the door, and we've got both of them playable in early prototype, although in Shared Souls case where we're currently ripping apart the prototype to rebuild it.
Mhm.
But because like first with Shared Souls case, like we had people, like a guy did two models for us of our characters and just did super low poly, almost like PS1 style, just so
Mhm.
we
Mhm.
could test and find out the idea if our idea was even fun. Because like the way we put it to people for Shared Soul is that if you can see it, you can fight on it. So like when you're in that fighting arena, any object in the arena you can jump on and fight on. So like we have a Ferris wheel,
Nice.
and people love to jump on the different cars and shoot fireballs at each other to try to knock each other off.
Yes.
And so like we wanted to see if that was fun, and it turns out it is. So now we're
Shocker.
working, yeah, so now we're working on getting it to look pretty, because unfortunately, especially with fighting games, when you go pitch them around, the thing you always hear people say is, can you get a little more polish on that demo so we can get a better idea? And so now we're seeking out to do that too. So
Mhm.
it's always an interesting balance, because you don't want to put too much polish on the front end. Like I said, lest you find out your game sucks and you wasted a lot of polish time that could have been refining time. But on the other
Mhm.
end, when you get to the point where you think you have something you can actually attract funding with, you have to start adding in that polish, because the people typically doing the funding want to be able to imagine a final game that might be making that money back, and it's a lot
Mhm.
easier for them to imagine it if your demo has polish. So it's that weird kind of
It's a
fun catch
delicate
22.
balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So something I actually wanted to ask, because like I think you mentioned what it was 2006 when you looked at the situation and you were like, we need to do something a little bit differently given how the state, everything that was going on with your brother and yourself and your family, to kind of start getting into game development. And I think that's really forward thinking, because I mean the indie space at the time was nowhere close to what it is today, right? I mean back in 2006 the indie landscape was a much different thing. So I kind of wanted to ask, like, what led you to that point of being like, you know what, I think this is a viable solution for myself and my family, because it's not just you were very clearly thinking about everyone around you as well. taking your love of video games and fusing it together. Were you nervous about that decision? How did you feel in those moments, and like what kind of brought you to that point?
Oh yeah, good question. Well, first of all, like when I was in high school, like I met a guy online who ran an indie studio out of Canada that was called Two Guys Software, later renamed to Crucifix, and I don't think they're around at all anymore. Like I was actually just talking to someone else online that neither of us have heard from the studio in a long time, so I think he's kind of just gone quiet, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But um, he taught me the basics of game design because he and I would nerd out over games online together, and he let me be an assistant writer. And um, like he had an idea. He was really heavy into gothic themes, so he
Mm-hmm.
wanted to create basically kind of a Doom or Quake clone called Eternal War, where it was about an angel that got trapped inside a suicidal person's head and had to talk to them from the inside to get them to a good place, you know, but battling their inner
Okay.
demons, literally, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so he let me kind of help out on that, kind of learn writing on that, learn team management. And so I was doing that all throughout high school. And but he was still very much PC side, and I was still very much, you know, console gamer side. I'm still very much, you know, like what I would call a controller jockey, you know, that just. And I've been learning keyboard a little bit more because especially since I play Among Us on everything I can get it on now, but I'm still a lot more comfortable with a controller.
Mm-hmm.
But so I already kind of knew some bits and pieces, but I didn't know the business side yet. That, you know, thankfully Rebecca was able to teach us, and I didn't know much about networking or team building yet. That I had to learn. But the thing is, you know, a lot of people from the outside, they're always like, "Oh man, it must have been scary to start that." But I think that for us, it wasn't as much because, like, when you go through medical bankruptcy and all that, you already lose everything. Like the worst already happened.
True.
So it kind of removes some of the fear from there because it's like, well, there is no other direction but up. Even if we quote unquote fail at this, it's still better than where we were. So, like, I guess that's kind of the blessing hidden in the curse there that it gave us the, you know, the one, you know, medical bankruptcy sucks in a lot of ways. And I'm a firm believer that our country needs to move towards like universal healthcare to protect people from that. But
Mm-hmm.
on the same end, I will say for our specific circumstance and our specific life story, it did give us an environment where we could be less afraid to try something extreme because the extreme things were already happening, you know. So but yeah, like when we talk to kids, one of the things I tell them is that when we were started, the term indie wasn't even around yet, and
Mm-hmm.
it's been interesting to see the rise of it. And especially as we're getting to the point where we're pitching around, because it's still kind of an interesting space because you have some people that really understand indie and understand that, you know, there's all these different ideas out there that you can work with, and that, you know, your business plan should be primarily based around, you know, just succeeding and breaking even, not so much being the next Among Us or the next Fortnite, you know.
Right.
But you still have situations where it gets a little weird because, like, for instance, I'm not a big fan of like microtransactions or, you know, using blockchain or NFTs or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some funders in the industry that go after indie, but when you go to pitch to them, they expect you to pick whatever is the most current popular buzz term. And
Right.
like we've been at pitching things where we were pitching Burst, and like people started asking us questions about stuff like blockchain and like that. You know, I had the poker face on, but my heart just dropped because I knew, I'm like, this is a competition we're not going to win, because when we're telling them, oh, we're going a traditional route, we're going to charge a fee up front for people to download the game, and then down the road we may have like DLC song packs or whatever. But
Sure. Yeah.
for the most part, though, when people pay $15 for the game, we want them to feel like they actually got
The
$15 worth
game.
of content.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like not a sales pitch on, oh hey, you need to spend tons of tiny little increments here to complete your experience. And
Darren would absolutely love you.
Yeah.
yeah, and
He's our third. He's on a bit of a hiatus from the show because of life circumstances. But yeah.
oh yeah, oh yeah, and it's one of those things that most people that are gamers get it. You know, like they, because you know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all of us have felt that frustration where we felt like it was less that I paid for a good experience, more that I paid to be preyed on. And
Right.
Mm.
so we're wanting to avoid that like the plague, but it can be really interesting because you have to kind of walk a tightrope. And I even have friends in the industry on Facebook. Thankfully, the vast majority of my industry friends are also like anti NFT, anti blockchain, anti,
Good.
you know, anti selling customer data, that kind of stuff. But you have a few that really try to hype it up, and you're like, oh man, because you're like, you know, otherwise I really like and respect this person, But I'm looking at that, I'm like, dude, just look into it a little bit further and realize what you're doing to your customer on that. Or because especially like, I'll every once in a while I'll watch. Have you guys ever heard of the Jimquisition?
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jim Sterling did an episode, and I want to say this is like 2 or 3 years ago now, where he interviewed people that were affected by things like microtransactions and especially loot boxes, because he was more aiming at loot boxes. But
Mm-hmm.
like there's people out there that are problem gamblers that they go to start playing video games because that way they can get that video game itch without their disability being preyed on. And that it's been
Mm-hmm.
totally heartbreaking to them to see this kind of stuff creep into gaming because they know it's tailor targeted to exploit them. And so it's basically attacking them in their safe space. And so when I was watching that video, I'm like, well, I absolutely don't want to be that. And so it
Mm-hmm.
frustrates me that, more and more people are sounding that alarm, trying to explain that, and that people are like, "Oh no, we can still do this." And I'm like, "But who are you harming by doing that? Be aware.
Right.
It's people
That's an
love to,
excellent point. Yeah.
yeah." Well, because everyone's like want to be like, "Oh, it's just a business plan. It's just a monetization style." But it's like your business plan exists in the real world, though, which means it has real world implications for someone. And
That,
it's
and
weird.
you have a lot of people from outside of the industry who see the money that gaming makes, right? I mean, it's like
Yeah,
it drives the most sales out of any entertainment medium, period.
by
So you
far.
have people who are like, this is a digital experience. NFTs and blockchain are inherently digital. Why not combine the two? And
Yeah,
again, you start running into situations like I'll have family members who know nothing about gaming, and they're like, hey, like, why don't you do an NFT gaming company? I'm like, fucking over my dead fucking body. But
yeah,
like, you know what I mean? It's like you have people looking from the outside being like, these things make sense. And anybody who's playing these games or actually part of this community, they're like, no, please don't. I don't want that.
yeah. Oh yeah, and we had a similar experience where we talked to a local business developer, and this, keep in mind this is just one guy, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, most business people we talk to, we haven't had this bad of an experience. But this guy owned a building, and we were kind of talking with him and explaining to him what we're doing and how we're seeking funding and all that. And at first, he seemed really interested, and we thought that he was maybe looking at potentially investing in us or being a part somehow. And
Mm-hmm.
then a couple days later, I get an email in my inbox, and he said, he's like, I don't mean to be offensive here, but would you be willing to give up your dreams and what you're doing to instead write a business plan for me where you go out, raise money, buy computers, and create a blockchain farm for me, farm the blockchain, and I'll let you have some of the profit. And he said that with a straight face.
Uh,
And like, I
That's such a weird thing for someone to do. To
right.
like ask somebody they don't even know, can you get, we know you, he knows you spent time putting all of that together, preparing it, and being like, I like his ideas so much and he can do it so much better than me. I'm going to ask him to give up everything he came in to present me with so
Yep.
I can still make more money than him and give him a part
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
of the
And on top
it's
of it,
that's business though, right? Like
Yep.
not just for gaming, but that's
Well,
business.
the problem is somebody else is going to come around and take that deal, you know?
yeah,
Yeah.
thankfully no one has yet, but
Okay,
because
good.
also a part of it, the part I left out there too, like not only would it be like his computers that I'm raising money for to buy him, but he wanted me to pay him rent too. Like, and that was actually in
Ha!
the email. And I actually went and sat down
Ha!
with I went and sat down with mom and Trevor, showed them the email, and said, okay, I need to take about 30 minutes before I respond, because if I respond right now, there's going to be a lot of profanity. So
Yeah.
I need to keep the business professional poker face on.
Rightfully so. I wouldn't that was nice of you to respond
Yeah.
because
Oh yeah.
I would not have responded. I was like, he's got to be joking.
Yeah. And it just blew my mind. And it was
It
during,
totally reminds me of like, this is going to sound so mean because I don't really know what they're called, but those scams where they email you and they're like, oh, like you're a long distance
fishing.
cousin or something. Yeah, that's what it reminds me of. Like he's
Yeah.
interviewing people to do this to. And that's messed up. That's a whole nother like kind of fucked up that I think is going on. But
Oh yeah.
oh, that sucks that yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh
And so
my
it's one of those things
god.
that I've kind of learned that when I start hearing the buzz terms, especially if the person is kind of projecting that they don't even really know what those buzz terms mean,
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to be involved with that. Like, and it
Right.
happens a lot in tech. Like when we explain stuff to kids, because especially it overlaps a lot with power and privilege and dynamics, that kind of stuff. where we explain to kids that, we understand it to a degree because, we're marginalized by being a medically marginalized family. But we tell them that,
Mhm.
Right.
when you hear our story, keep in mind that we still had white privilege and male privilege on our side. So you're hearing like a middle of the road bad, not as
Mhm.
bad as it can possibly get. But
Right.
one of the things we tell kids is that when you get into these exciting fields like tech or entertainment, you'll run into people that will try to pull scams off the latest buzzwords. And we use examples from Silicon Valley to show them, like, have you guys ever heard of the Juicero?
No.
No.
No. Okay, so this is hilarious, and I will have to Wikipedia to make sure what exactly they raised. But basically, these two tech bros went around Silicon Valley and they raised something. I want to say it was around $120 million to create a kitchen appliance that they called the Juicero, which was a giant box that they would just mail you a bag of juice. You put the bag of juice in the box and it squeezes it for you to get the juice out. And they wanted to charge customers $700 per appliance, and they convinced enough people to raise $120 million.
I'm very confused. Where did the bags of juice come from? They sent you the bag of juice
Yeah,
with the appliance, and then instead of just opening the bag of juice, you
yeah.
You
would
put the
use this
juice in the
overpriced $700 machine to. Were the bags made of diamond or steel? I'm just very confused on why
Well,
you would
on
invest in.
on that note, though,
That's
like, you basically had to pay like a subscription thing where they would mail you boxes of the bags every month or whatever, and people actually picked up on that, which of course, it's common sense. But there was YouTube videos of people just giggling, just squeezing the bags by hand, like, I have $700 hands, and like squeezing it and stuff. And they released a press statement trying to claim that it was more nutritious to have the machine squeeze it for you, that you were losing nutrition by squeezing it by hand.
What?
Yeah.
That's so
they
dumb. I mean, you're
and
already losing nutrition by juicing the vegetables and the fruit. Just
yeah,
go eat a fucking apple.
yeah, like, it was wild, and it like went belly up within, I want to say, 3 years, but they not before raising hundreds of
But
millions of dollars.
that's oh my god.
This
I
reminds
feel
me
like
of.
I just
Go ahead,
yes,
D.
Matt.
No, go ahead,
I
D.
was just gonna say I just watched this thing about this woman who was like
Elizabeth Holmes.
cute. Say it one more time.
Elizabeth Holmes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Matt, have you heard about her?
The name sounds familiar, but I'm going to need more to the
Oh
story here.
my god. Okay, so she went around and I can't even remember what she created.
She
It was
created a company called Theranose, and she claimed that she had this box about the size of a large printer that you could take one drop of your blood, put it on there, and it would run like 30 separate medical tests that normally require a machine the size of a
right,
room.
because at first it was for diabetics or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so like she got all these medical companies. She even had the FDA. No, was
Yep.
it the FDA? It was the FDA even approved it. No real research.
Yeah, no.
No real research on this. No like medical doctors, nothing. And she was able to convince the FDA and other medical facilities
And
who
Walgreens.
went to school, yeah, and Walgreens to have these things installed. And she was on like Times Magazine. She was,
Meeting with
and
presidents.
it was all bullshit.
Yep.
It was all bullshit.
That reminds me of like my favorite. It's funny you bring up Silicon Valley, Josh. Just like I'm thinking about the show, but like Hot Dog and Not Hot Dog. They like there's like a bit in the show where this one guy is making an app, and he like basically spins it as like it's you use your camera to detect what the food is, and then like once it detects the food, it would show you all like the ingredients to it and all the things. And he
Yeah.
basically and he's like prototyping it and he's showing, and he goes to a hot dog, and the app goes, "This is a hot dog," and then he goes to a watermelon or whatever the fuck it was, and it goes, "Not hot dog," and everybody's and it's like they raised a shit ton of money for this because they were pitching it as like a food detection thing, and all it is hot dog, not hot dog, and I fucking died.
The sad part is that's not exaggerated.
that.
That's how it goes down. And like in Elizabeth Holmes' case, she's actually in trial right now. Like she got arrested over it. And like, when you like, there's like videos on there that cover her pathology because she is so interesting on a psychological level. Like she was obsessed with Steve Jobs because when you look into Apple, Steve Jobs had some issues where he was a jerk to employees. He was abusive, and
Mhm.
she loved that. She loved that he had the power to do that and not get in trouble. So she started dressing like him, like the black turtleneck and everything. Like
Yep.
went to his same, I think, business coach or whatever, and demanded to see the business coach the same days that Steve Jobs did. And she even started, well, like when she would talk to people, she would actually intentionally lower her voice because she thought speaking in a lower tone intimidated people more and made them do what she wanted. And like,
Uh-huh.
and the crazy
I
part
mean,
is,
evidently she wasn't wrong about a lot of those things because she got as far as she got.
oh
I
yeah,
mean,
she way outdid Juice Rose. She was in the, God, I want to say she actually hit the billions. Like she
I
was,
think she did hit the billions of dollars, Matt. She had her own facilities,
yeah,
For
like
nothing.
all built on bullshit.
and like the funny part is that people would send her the strips to test, and she claimed she was testing them in those machines. She'd actually send them off to traditional labs and then lie and just claim that they were ran normally. And like,
Yeah, because then they tested her machine and it was like
Not hot dog.
it
yeah,
was
it was
not
not
hot
hot
dog.
dog.
It was not hot dog.
Well, and like the thing is, like, I saw, you know, I don't have a medical degree, but like people that were doing YouTube videos about trying to explain it, like the different kinds of tests that she claimed that that one thing could do. Like if you had those two machines in real life, you wouldn't put them near each other in the same room because they could like with the magnetic imaging and stuff, they could harm each other and produce crap results. So you would normally have them in separate rooms with like shielding and stuff. And that's why they take up a room, you know, to make sure it's safe. And she was saying that you could do it all on the size of a printer.
Yep.
And there was no truth to it. Like it was all smoke and mirrors. And there's a lot of employees that have come out that said that they tried to explain it to her.
Oh
and,
yeah.
and she would threaten them. She knew it was a lie, so she would threaten with ruining their lives to keep it quiet.
Jesus Christ, man. The
I'm
shit
just
people
like-
get away with.
Like this is gonna sound terrible, but I wish I was that inventive
Yeah.
and clever to sell absolutely nothing for $1 billion. And listen, I wouldn't have been stupid like her. I would have walked away at a cool 200 million.
Yeah.
200 million. I would have
Half
been
a
like,
mil, yeah. I would have been like, yeah. I'm
and they
good
would have
with
been
this,
like, what
500 thou.
happened to the famous inventor? She just disappeared. And by the time they'd be like, oh, it was all bullshit. She got away with 2 million. Yeah.
Living
Yeah,
on
so
a beach in Thailand, I know.
You'd have accepted what Bobby Kotick makes in 1 year.
Exactly, yeah. Off just off
Yeah.
his bonus.
Guys,
Yeah.
it's already
Absolute
depressing
dipshit.
enough. I don't even want to talk about
Absolute fucking. Okay, well,
Yeah.
let's. I have another question to bring this back to the road to greatness, and to bring this back
Yeah.
to you and your story and PlayStation. How was something that I'm curious about is like how was gaming kind of there for you and your brother through some of the worst moments? Because I'm sure what your brother has gone through and you and your family have gone through has been a lot by any stretch of the fucking imagination. So I wanted to ask, like, how was gaming there for you in those tougher moments? And then how did it feel like, you know, being part of PlayStation's Road to Greatness? Because that's cool as fuck.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, when I was in middle school, you know, like my parents worked at group home, you know, like for troubled youth, you know, from when I was a little kid. Like they started when I was 2 years old, and mom quit in 2003 when, you know, Trevor's stuff came down. But so growing up in the group home, one time a kid that was going through the group home gave me his old NES, and that was my game system up until middle school. And I mean, it was a broken down NES. Like we did the blowing on cartridges thing more than I would like to admit. Now that I know as an adult that that's not a good thing to do, I'm like, oh, we probably
it
made
always worked.
It
Yeah.
did
That's
work.
all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
It always eventually works. So I don't want to hear nothing. Okay.
Yeah.
Go.
But so my NES finally died, and a kid was staying the night, and he and I actually, to a degree, like we didn't fully take it apart, but we had basically attempted triage and surgery. Like we were going through all our imagined checklist of everything that was wrong, and we finally decided it was time to have a funeral, you know. But
Time to blow on it.
yeah, it didn't work that time.
It didn't
But,
take any. Didn't
like-
work.
But then I saw a commercial that night for the Sony PlayStation, which was launching in like a month. So I went and told mom about it, and I had to convince her that a PlayStation wasn't one of those play school sets with like the little plastic slide stuff, because that's what she thought it was. But
Wait, did you guys just skip the whole Sega era and move
Yeah,
right on to PlayStation? Okay.
Sega era, I went to friends' houses and played on their Segas.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I was like, because all he said was NES and then PlayStation. I was like, that's a huge jump.
yeah, no, I only got to play Super Nintendo and Sega at friends' houses. So like,
Okay.
so of course for
got
me
it.
that was like a monumental jump.
Right.
And
Mhm.
then the whole time growing up, like mom has always been very big on media with us. Like, it started off as kids where she would teach us how to catch flubs in movies. And then it kind of led to, okay,
Nice.
understanding the difference between fantasy and reality. And like, I decided that I wanted Final Fantasy VII because I had stayed the night at a friend's house and he had Tobal Number 1, which was an old Square fighting game that came with a demo disc of Final Fantasy VII, and we played through the
I
demo.
remember when they used to do the demo disc. We got it
Yeah,
too.
Mhm.
yeah, and it's like a demo that technically like has a jacked up story because they have Aerith with the party way before she joins. But
Mm-hmm.
so I played the demo and I was like, okay, I need this because the thing that dropped my jaw is that they had the ability to summon. And the first time I saw the Leviathan summon, doing a whole tsunami to wipe out your enemies, I was like, I need this. And so, mom, gets me Final Fantasy VII for my birthday that year, and actually she gave it to me a little bit ahead of time, and I was getting through it, and we actually beat it on my birthday that night that year, and that was wild. But I had to have kids come over from from school to teach me how to level up and how to play an RPG because I never knew how to do that.
Mhm.
And I get to the point where, the famous scene where Aerith dies, and I was a sixth grader there just bawling my eyes out. And then I remember, mom's whole story about understanding the difference between fantasy and reality. And I was like, wow, this fantasy had elicited a real emotion. That's it. I want to create video games. And I kind of put that to a side for a while in high school because I got really big into school paper. Like I'd write, game reviews for the school paper, and I was opinion editor and all that. And I thought I was going to go into journalism. But
Mhm.
then when everything came crashing down with Trevor, that kind of put me back on that track of, what? Since everything went to crap, let's shoot for the stars. I want to be a game designer again. And so that I hold Final Fantasy VII in very high regard because like I know I've beaten the original over 30 times. I stopped counting at 30, but it used to be that every few years I would play it through again, but now that remake's out, I just tend to go goof off and remake,
Mhm.
especially like I'm slowly working through the PS5 version to see what they did with different haptics and stuff. Just to,
Mhm.
like they didn't do a lot, and they straight up said they didn't. But I wanted to get an idea of where they're going to go with it.
Mhm.
But it's just falling in love with that fact that you can elicit real human emotion and you can comment on real life things, like how Final Fantasy VII covers corporate responsibility, because where ultimately you could say everything in that game ultimately came down to malfeasance on Shinra's part, like that
Yeah.
they were
Mhm.
so worried about profits that they didn't worry about impact, and that not only created environmental destruction, it created sociopaths like Sephiroth who ended up going off and being a massive problem too. So it kind of had that
Mhm.
resonance to me that, again, it just blows my mind that so many people want to run companies now these days but don't want to think about, okay, how's my company impacting the world, how am I
Right.
doing right or wrong,
Right.
and so I got really addicted to that. And Trevor loved watching me play Final Fantasy VII, although he kind of leans more towards Kingdom Hearts side because by the time he was getting into his kidney problems and he was spending time in the hospital, I'd bring up a TV and the PS2 and he'd sit there and play Kingdom Hearts. So Kingdom Hearts kind of became his entryway into Final Fantasy. Like he's actually beaten Sephiroth on 1 and 2, and I watched him do it and I was like, oh hell no.
No.
Like,
No, thank you.
yeah, no, like that's a ridiculous OP like there. But um we both just fell in love with this whole idea of storytelling and how it can, be so impactful and emotive through games. And like that's definitely why Final Fantasy VII is one of my favorite stories. And then with Persona 5, like I absolutely love the vibe that Persona 5 has, that no matter how bad things get, you can have a positive impact on the world. Like that's such a driving theme to the whole story of it. Because coming from our family's background, like you're like, I don't want to compare myself to other people that experience marginalization because you only know your shoes, you only know your lane. But a lot
Mhm.
of times it's hard to explain to people about medical marginalization and what it's like to be medically bankrupt and lose everything, because the most people ever think about is maybe buying a raffle ticket if you're throwing a raffle, but they don't ever think about how everything's connected. Like, for instance, trying to be a company in a startup, banks and traditional venture capitalists won't look at us because they'll be like, oh, you have
True.
bad credit or you don't have a lot of assets. And we even got to the point where we're telling them up front we're a medically marginalized family, and they're like, oh no, we won't judge you by that, that's illegal to judge people by that. And then they turn around and start judging us for things that are directly connected to it. And
Right.
I still haven't figured out for people like that if they're being intentionally deceptive or if they, just don't think it out, just don't understand how stuff is interconnected and
Mm-hmm.
like that. But
It's
either way,
probably a little of both.
yeah. And it's frustrating because, then I, of course, as I'm making more, I started making more friends online, especially making friends from other marginalized groups. Because, like, for instance, I'm technically in the LGBT community because I'm what's called asexual, which for
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason, the way my brain's wired, I'm not attracted to guys or girls. I don't know why. It's just the way it
Mm-hmm.
is. But, making more friends that are, for instance, gay or people from the Black community and hearing what their experiences are and hearing that it's a lot of the same crap where people think that they're not being discriminatory and they straight up are. And it's like, you just look at that with that kind of tilted head, like, are you aware of what you're doing? Or like,
Right.
but it's, and that's the thing to me is that, like, I was just kind of raving about it on Facebook a minute ago because people on my Facebook friends list have just come to know that I'm kind of the dude that will go on a rant if I see something that makes me smack my forehead online. And
Mm-hmm.
earlier today, like, they had an article on some website that one of the guitarists from Queen got really upset that they were being very inclusive of LGBT at the British Music Awards. Like, instead of having best male or best female artist, they're just having best artist because they said, there's a lot of non-binary performers now, and we don't want them to be accidentally not able to compete because they don't fit either of those
Right.
slots. And
Hmm.
he's like,
Awesome.
and he released a statement whining, saying that if I had formed Queen today, people would probably force me to have a gay person and a person of color in my lineup. And it's like, dude, one, no one's forcing you to do anything. Two,
People aren't forcing people to do that today.
yeah, no, right? And so, like,
Yeah.
I just got ticked, flipped over to Facebook, started doing my rant and going, no one's forcing you to do a damn thing. And the thing to me, just especially as a guy in the middle of Montana, where with our studio, we have, women on our studio, we have people of color and all that, and gay people and all that. And like, it basically happened accidentally because we didn't have an intentional affirmative action policy in place or anything. We just
Mm-hmm.
cared about people. And it's like, dude, if you're telling me that you're being forced to have people that are different than you around you, you're tattling on yourself whether you realize it or not. Because
Yeah.
if you're a decent person, that should be happening accidentally.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well said.
unfortunately, you see it a lot in the industry. And there is, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's good people in the industry too. Like, one of my favorite people is, like, for instance, Sean Layden, who used to be the president
Mm-hmm.
of PlayStation America. He's very vocal about supporting people. I mean, when he was president of PlayStation, you would see him, on LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook, straight up out there in the Pride marches with a PlayStation Pride shirt. Like, he was
Mm-hmm.
very loud about everyone deserves a chance here. And he's been awesome in that he'll sometimes take time aside and send me a private message on Twitter to give us some feedback on what we're doing and tell us how to be better and all that stuff.
That's
So,
amazing.
That's really, really dope. So,
yeah.
actually, I wanted to roll into the last question before we get to news.
Yeah.
How did you cultivate that relationship with PlayStation to like have them come in?
Yeah.
Because I remember watching that video and that was just incredible.
So we didn't realize how good we did in that contest yet, but they had a contest for it where we thought that we were at a losing position because generally when you see voting contests and stuff like that, it's places like New York, LA, and Dallas that win. Generally those
Mm-hmm.
three because they have the population to pull it. But they put up this thing saying, "Hey, why do you deserve to be a stop?" And we kind of had a relationship with Sony at that point, but like not with any of the people that were actually involved with the contest or making the decision. Like, we hadn't met those people yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, what, screw it. I'm going to throw up a video and explain who we are, what we're trying to do. And I started getting my kind of community in this area voting. And, our town's called Great Falls because, like, the whole reason behind that is there's like 5 waterfalls that go throughout our city that are like
That sounds
hydroelectric dams.
beautiful.
Oh yeah, it's really cool. And it's like kind of nuts because, like, when you learn about the US and how they sent like Lewis and Clark and their whole expedition to go check out this area way back in the day, our area is like written very poorly in their books because they were kind of upset coming through here because to go up those waterfalls they had to take like several 100-pound canoes up vertical rock faces like 200 feet.
Ha.
Yeah, so it was like wild. And like now they have like a museum here where you can go pull on a piece of rope and it will tell you how far you would have gotten in a day. And it's usually like, oh, you would have made it a foot. I'm like, that's really
Dang.
uplifting.
I'd probably they would
Huh?
have told me to stay on the ground.
Yeah, I would
right.
have been like, nah, I'm good with this rope, thanks.
But since our region's called Great Falls, and at that time, PlayStation's motto was "Greatness awaits," so I started a hashtag "Bring Greatness to the Falls," and it got people all going nuts on it.
Genius.
And so,
That's
first of
really
all,
smart.
yeah, so it got people rooting, and like, because we've heard from people for so often around here that they're like, I never thought that video games could happen here. I always thought I would only be a consumer of them, nothing more. And so that is a big thing that we play off of, and not only in Great Falls, but we also go to nearby communities like, for instance, Browning, which is on the Native American reservation for the Blackfeet people, and we reach out to kids with that and tell them that this is just as much for you as it is for anyone else. And a lot of
I
times
love
when you're dealing with people,
that.
yeah, and when you're dealing with rural areas, people don't really hear that often. And I mean, technically speaking, Great Falls is technically rural too. Like, we're a city of about 60,000 people, which I know to most people is like way like a suburb, not a city, but
Yeah.
so we got people voting on that, and it turned out that people got so hyped on it that we actually were the top vote getting entry by like a wide margin. Like, I think they said we were double second place. But
Nice.
Wow.
but when they started interviewing us, because when you win something like that, they try to make it look like a surprise, that reality TV style, but really you've won way ahead of time, because
Mhm.
they do their legwork where they call you ahead of time, say, hey, you're a potential winner, here's paperwork to fill out, here, legal releases, tell us anything that might be embarrassing, all that kind of stuff. And
Mhm.
so,
I would
and
not know that. I have never won a contest of that caliber. It was like,
yeah,
wow, that's a lot.
they want to avoid stuff like that, because like, let's say worst case scenario, you let someone win, do this big media thing around them, and then find out like they're a crazy white supremacist or something, that would come out to
Mm.
really embarrass you. So they do a
Yeah,
lot
Yeah.
of background stuff to make sure you're not going to make them look bad.
that's smart.
Right.
Yeah, but during the background checks, they told us that due to our life story in general, they're like, even if you hadn't won the voting, you were our first pick. And so it's like, oh, so we won on both fronts. So
Nice.
because like
That's sweet.
the voting determined, I think, one or two of the spots, and then the other ones, the voting helped, but ultimately the judges wanted to pick people that were inspiring.
Mhm.
And so they told us they were doing this, and we teamed up with a local art museum that we sometimes do game design camps at. And they bring the truck out, and they were panicky because it was being really rainy that day, and they were like, God, we're so sorry, when it rains no one comes. And it ended up blowing them away, because over 900 people came and waited an average of 2.5 hours in the pouring rain to get on the truck. So they're quickly going and busting out PlayStation ponchos and handing them out to people in line.
Oh, that's
and,
good.
Hell
Oh my
yeah.
God, yes.
and all the kids that got to go to our game design camps like got special VIP bracelets, so they could go on and off the truck whenever they wanted. They didn't wait in line, and like Sony treated them like VIPs, and they all got a backpack with full of stuff, and it was really cool. And like, it's there's some people there that I really appreciate, because not just because they did that for us, but because that they're very community focused and doing really cool stuff like that.
Mhm.
And definitely, like, that was spearheaded during, I mean, there's still people there like that, but that was spearheaded during Sean Layden's era. And Sean Layden is just a very unique individual when it comes to gaming and understanding people and promoting people. So I'm excited to see that he's still in the industry doing stuff, even if he's not at PlayStation anymore.
Yeah. He's
That's
one of the greats, man.
incredible.
Oh yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing your story with us, and I hope that inspires anybody else out there.
Mhm.
Like you're never really at your lowest, and I'm not saying that to be insensitive, but like once you get there, like there's always something you can do if you have like the drive and the want and the need, right?
Yep.
So um yeah, Josh, your story is so incredible. I remember when Jackie first started working with you, she just graduated, and she told me she was working for a game company. She was super super excited, and
She's
then
so awesome.
Jackie's a real one. And so like, and she's been like, even though she has a full-time job, she's been like working because she like helped with the rigging of some of your characters. And I
Yep.
remember I hate rigging. So I was always giving kudos to her. But I just wanted to shout out Jackie really quick because she is the one who helped with this connection. So thanks,
Oh yeah.
Jackie,
And
whenever
Thanks,
you hear this.
Jackie.
when you guys are throwing up stuff for your friends too, tell her that she totally has my permission, that if she wants to show off the rigging of what she's doing on that character, feel free to show it, because I know
Oh
Oh,
she's been
yeah.
I
having
will.
nightmares with it, because it's like a character that it's like a demon character in our game, and his entire lower half is like a squiggly, bloody bit that kind of moves like a snake. And she has been a real trooper in like doing a rig, testing it, not liking it, ripping off his entire lower half, doing it all over again. And she just sent me a message this
Yeah,
morning saying,
said
I
the
think
spine
I've
is
got
like,
it.
oh, nice.
Yeah, I was
Hell
like,
yeah,
We'll
oh,
be
Jackie.
working on that tonight. But yeah, she said like the spine had been killing her and she had to redo it like over and over again.
oh yeah.
But yeah, big shout out to Jackie for establishing this connection. Josh, thank you so much for coming on our show and sharing your story with us. We're going to jump into some news.
All right,
Matt?
cool. Do
Yeah,
you guys,
All
let's
right.
talk.
Nope,
do you guys,
you're
you
gonna
guys want,
stay. Nope.
all right.
You're
Yeah,
gonna
you
stay.
hang with us.
You're
Yeah,
staying
we
with
want.
the whole
Yeah,
way
we want
through.
your valuable newsy opinion just as much as we want anything else.
Oh,
All right. Let's talk. I'm going to start pulling from Eurogamer, written by Tom Phillips. This is one of the strangest stories in a little bit. Reports claim that a voice actor leaked Resident Evil 4 remake concept art. Reports of the weekend claimed Resident Evil voice actor DC Douglas leaked concept art from Capcom's upcoming unannounced Resident Evil 4 remake. The artwork, which is claimed Douglas sent privately to fans via Twitter after discussing his role during a Twitch live stream, purportedly shows Resident Evil series Albert Wesker, the role Douglas played for many years. So basically what happens is we've had a slew of Resident Evil remakes over the last few years with Resident Evil, 2 and 3, and Resident Evil 4 was obviously the one that was next in line, but it wasn't confirmed. The voice actor went ahead and shared a bunch of concept art and shit that he was not supposed to do and was talking about it on Twitch. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring this up is because this is one of the strangest leaks that I think I've seen in a little bit, that it's coming straight from the fucking voice actor being like, yeah, this is real, and here's
That
what the
is
character
weird.
looks like.
That is
On
weird.
top of the
Yeah.
fact that I also want to call out this guy for being an absolute and fucking utter douchebag. There's a lot of stories now coming out about how he's been sexually harassing people and now he's been fucking like abusive to many people for very many years. And so like this story for me is two parts. A, what the fuck are you doing sharing that concept art? And B, what the fuck are you doing still working in this industry? It doesn't matter how long you've been voicing this
we
fucking guy.
know.
I
He's
know.
still working in the industry
Because he's fucking a white male. That's why. But yeah, I wanted to bring this up because it's such a fucking perplexing story. Josh, I want to start with you. Are you big on Resident Evil 4? Or Resident Evil as a franchise?
I have a weird relationship with Resident Evil 4 because, like, as a kid, I was obsessed with a little bit of 1, but especially 2 and 3. Like, beat those so many times. And, like, the one story I had is that I was too young to work a job back then, but a local video store told me if I would come in every Saturday and quickly wash videotapes for them and, like, wipe a rag on them, they would give me books of free rentals. So I was like, sweet, hell yeah, but the guy there, the manager, who I still to this day have not forgiven, told me that he had a memory card save file that if you beat Resident Evil 2 the right way, you would unlock Ryu and Akuma from Street Fighter and could go shoot fireballs at zombies.
No way.
Yeah, and so
you poor thing.
Yeah, and so I beat that game around 200 times in different ways, trying to figure out, like, timing myself with a little stopwatch. And then I found out as an adult that was originally created as an April Fool's prank by a game magazine. Oh god,
no.
I was so mad.
Well, did he know, or did he believe the lie too, and just knew you were into games and gave it to you?
He knew that it was a lie, and he was just telling me to make himself look big. And I kept telling him, "Dude, we have PlayStations here. Bring in your memory card one of these days, and we'll copy the file over." And he would always go, "Oh, I forgot," and so I was like,
bastard.
And so as an adult, when I saw that, I was so angry. Like, I wanted to track the dude down and just, like, scream at him. But, like, like, in 4, like, I love what 4 brought to the table for gameplay. Like, the over the shoulder and the more tense, claustrophobic feeling. I felt the story of the overall franchise kind of started going off the rails a tiny bit in 4. Like I get, because, like, the thing that bugged me is, like, I just got done playing Resident Evil Code Veronica X at the time. And, at the end of Resident Evil Code Veronica X, you have Claire and Chris. They're like, yeah, it's time to take down Umbrella, giving you the idea that the next big game is going to be Umbrella's downfall. Put in Resident Evil 4 and it starts up 5 years after Umbrella fell. And I'm like, what? Like,
fuck? Yeah.
I was like, I was explicitly promised. Like, and I guess eventually they came out with a game on the Wii that covered that time frame where Umbrella fell. Like, someone told me there's a game on the Wii that does that. But
Hmm.
so story wise, I wasn't a fan, but gameplay wise, I loved it. And I've been really jealous of watching people play it in VR because, like, if you see the VR footage of Resident Evil 4 from the Oculus, the
Cool
goofy
as fuck.
stuff, the goofy stuff that people can do in that, I'm like, that is just too cool. I need to like, you can like throw your knife in the air and do tricks with it and stuff, like with the little hand
Hmm.
remotes. But I will say it was weird to me when they initially announced that they were going to remake 4 because I'm like, 4 doesn't feel all that bad. Like, it actually set the standard for what modern Resident Evil is. But I was shocked that they didn't do Code Veronica. But yeah, like in general on that thing
Yeah.
though, like first of all, breaking NDA is a no, and like I mean, like we said, he's kind of riding high on privilege there and all that, but like, the people get that attitude of, oh, I can get to choose when this breaks. It's like, especially if you're an actor, you're one of the more forward faces of it because everyone associates you with that character. But
Hmm.
it's not just you that's that character. There's also the modeling artist, the texture artist, the person like Jackie who rigged it, the animators, the programmers. All these people work together to bring this to life, and you're kind of telling them, flipping all of them the middle finger, saying, "I'm going to make it all about me." And that's kind of not cool, especially when the game's going to come out anyways. It's one thing if you worked on a project, put your blood, sweat, and tears into it, and it got canceled, and years later you're wanting to talk to fans about it. That I can
Hmm.
get. But if you're just wanting
Sure.
to jump the gun so that you get this attention front and center, that's kind of uncool.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of my biggest things with that. And Dusty, that's kind of what I was going to ask you then, right? Because especially coming from an artist perspective and from, you used to be in video game development, to have this like rancid jackass just turn around and be like, look at all the shit that I'm sharing that I'm not supposed to be. How would it feel coming from that perspective, seeing like your work being thrown out there just because some dickhead wants to talk about it?
Well, I feel like as long as I got paid to do my part,
Yeah.
because
Mm-hmm.
I think as an artist, when you're working for someone else's dream,
Mm-hmm.
which it it might hurt, but it doesn't hurt as much as if like that were your personal thing, right? So
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Mm-hmm.
do you know what I'm saying? So I could
Yeah.
see them being like, man, that's messed up. Like they went ahead and like showed that art, but I got money in the bank. Time to
Yeah.
work on the next project. I
True.
don't know.
I can
It
see that
depends on
too.
the person and how
Yeah.
like. And then I was thinking about him, and I was like, well, why would he show it unless maybe he knew he was about to get ousted for being like this dickhead or whatever. So he was like, well, fuck you guys, because obviously the people who are going to oust him are people who worked with him. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe he did it as like a revenge thing, or maybe he's just really stupid, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, regardless of what it is, fuck DC Douglas, and yeah, let's move on. On to our next story, which is one that I'm very excited about, coming from Eurogamer again from Wesley Ian Poole. DC Universe Online developers making a Marvel MMO. The developer of DC Universe Online is making a Marvel MMO. Dimensional Ink Studios, the latest name for the Austin, Texas branch of Daybreak Game Company, is working on a quote-unquote Marvel IP-based massively multiplayer online game, according to an investor presentation. So, D, I know you are a massive MMO fan, and you like Marvel fine. You like some of the old stuff more than you do the new. But like, what would you want to see
The
out of a
better
Marvel
stuff.
MMO? What would you want to see out of a
Um,
Marvel MMO?
when you were saying that, I was like thinking about that. Like, how would they like categorize? Like, would they have like 6 different like types that you can play?
Mm,
Where would your powers come from? Is it the same like level? I wondered about the gameplay,
mm,
and then I wondered like, is it going to include like people from the main cast like telling a story that way? I am intrigued because I do love MMOs, and I'm intrigued because I want to know what the overall story of this Marvel universe is going to be. Like, is it going to be like years and years later after like a big event? Is it even going to correlate with the same characters, or is this going to be like a new world that just, well, not new world, but a new universe where like it's completely different? It doesn't have any of the main characters in most of the Marvel stories. I don't know. I'm excited because I love MMOs. I love
yeah,
playing with people.
I can't wait to play this with you because like if it's anything like DC Universe, you would like in DC Universe you made your own character and then like all of the iconic characters would like existed in the world around you. Josh, are you big on MMOs? Are you a big Marvel fan? Does this story do much for you? Are you excited?
I love the MCU. Like, I kind of suck at MMOs. Like, our programmers Raven and Gerardo are both heavy into Final Fantasy 14, and so
Yes,
they keep trying to lure me in. Like, come on, Josh, you can ride Cloud's bike in it, and I'm like,
you
yeah, but I like,
can.
yeah, like I love. like the beginning, middle, end of a normal RPG, like the build up and oh, so
Mhm.
this is the guy that stabbed your girlfriend in the back with a 9-foot katana. Okay, let's go kick the crap out of him. Like,
Right.
you know, like stuff like that. So, but yeah, so like Trevor, my brother, is really the one that got into MMOs. Like he got platinum in DC Universe Online on PS3. I don't think he ever did the PS4 version.
Dang.
And like he had so many, because when he was playing, I don't think you had to pay to make additional characters or whatever. So he had a bunch of
Okay.
different characters. And like for instance, like do you ever watch Gabriel Iglesias?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, he's a comedian, and he has a whole comedy bit that he did where he talked about how um he like a friend took him to a strip club or something, and I don't remember the whole bit, but basically he was shocked that people didn't recognize him, and he got into a back and forth with a really angry stripper who demanded that he sign, like she just knew he was a celebrity, she didn't know who he was, so he signed the autograph as George Lopez, and she told him that her name was Diamond Rodriguez, and my brother was giggling about that. So he went and made a superhero chick that fights with a staff named Diamond Rodriguez and was running around this online world as her. And he made like the stripper for justice or whatever.
Nice.
Stripper for
Love it.
justice. I love it.
A joke that only us two got. Everyone else was just confused as hell. And like,
Right.
Well, now we know, and our listeners know.
yeah,
so.
Yeah.
And I don't remember if he kept it or not, because like I mean, my God, like it was on his PS3, so, and I think there was like a limit to how many characters you could make, and like there was like so many trophies that were involved. Like you had like for every skill set or something, or every job class, there was a certain set of trophies, and so he was dead set on getting that. But so I think he would be down for the Marvel one, and I can't remember if Trevor tried any of the Final Fantasies online, and I don't think he tried Elder Scrolls.
Mm-hmm.
Like he, like especially he's been to a lot of actiony stuff lately, like you know how they recently had Control for free on PSN. He's been playing that a lot.
Nice.
I've been watching it. It's interesting. Like
it's fun.
Like God, I wish I could remember where it was, but there's a moment where she claims, I can't remember if she actually goes to Montana or if she just references a place in Montana that doesn't actually exist, and so we were both cracking up over that. Oh yeah, it was like Crystal Shores, Montana, and like the poster card kind of looked tropical, and we're like, oh yeah, that would totally happen.
Hell?
You know, as soon as Idaho, Washington, and California and Oregon fell off in the ocean, yeah, that can totally be a thing.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, exactly.
Just
well, we'll have to get you back on the show in the future once this game comes out and hear if what was her name? Diamond what? Rutabaga?
Diamond Rodriguez.
Rodriguez.
Did you really forget?
I remember started with the R. I remember started with an R, and that's all I had.
Rutabaga. Okay.
I have to tell Trevor about that now, though, because he's going to lose his mind over that.
That's what I'm saying. I hope that. Well, I mean, everybody knows that like the Marvel side and the DC side is just like a little bit different. So I hope Diamond Rutabaga will be his Marvel character, and we'll have to hear about her exploits.
Alternate universe, yeah,
exactly.
Yes.
And I think that's why we fell in love with so much with stuff like Among Us, because where you can just have that goofy fun and you know you're messing with other players, and that's okay because it's part of the game. But yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Well, I'm excited to see more from this Marvel MMO whenever we see it for the first time. We're going to wrap with just one more last story because it's A, relevant, and B, I'm very excited. This is coming from Deadline, written by Anthony D'Alessandro. Spider-Man producer Amy Pascal teases new Sony Disney Tom Holland web-slinger trilogy. Spider-Man producer and former Sony Pictures boss Amy Pascal says that a new MCU Spider-Man trilogy with Tom Holland is in the early works, one that keeps the Culver City lot and Disney's Marvel working together beyond their already contracted Spider-Man No Way Home, which is poised to be a massive Christmas blockbuster. I am so fucking happy. I love Tom Holland as Spider-Man. I literally drove to the theater today to pick up tickets for No Way Home because obviously, like, Canada's fucking stupid. Yeah, hell yeah. Dude, listen, okay, so they went on sale on midnight last night. Today's Spider Monday. Happy Spider Monday, everybody. It went on sale at midnight in the States. And like Canada, for whatever reason, was like, fuck y'all. We're not going to talk about when we're putting them up, and we're not going to show it. So a lot of people started like calling the theaters, and they were like, noon. They go live at noon. So today at noon, last night at midnight, the main movie theater, Cineplex, their website already went down, and it wasn't even on sale. So today I was like, fuck that. Am I fucking chancing it? So I drove to the theater. I shit you not. There were 30 people in line in front of me and another 20 behind me by the time that the line actually started moving. there was that many people lined up, and the app was broken for more than 2 hours after noon. So I'm very fucking happy I went and got tickets. But regardless,
when is the premiere?
Like this
the
Friday,
17th
right?
is the 17th is the official release date, December 17th, but like they always do like the night before screening, so the 16th is when it'll come out. I love Tom Holland. I love him as Spider-Man. I'm very excited for No Way Home. I really hope that in this next trilogy, we see him kind of come into his own about as Spider-Man a little bit more, and we get away from the Tony Stark stuff, which a lot of these movies have been kind of, a little bit too focused on his relationship to Stark and how I'm excited to see him grow. And I hope Holland sticks around because I love him a lot as Peter Parker and as Spider-Man. I'm very, very excited about this. Destiny, you're someone who's like not really been in the MCU lately. Does this news do anything for you? Are you excited about more Spider-Man? Where are you at with this?
I was talking to Jackie about that today. I'm excited, but okay, this is not a popular opinion. I know some people are like, we wish that like Sony would just sell Spider-Man to Disney, but I don't, because I think Disney has enough and
Yeah.
they can pay out a little bit to borrow some other, things that they need to make their movies pop.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited that Sony is still, obviously this whole thing comes back around to Sony must be still willing to work with Disney to create these movies, and that's a win-win for everybody. So
Yeah,
true. Well said. Josh, what about you?
Like I hadn't actually seen that news yet, so I'm actually pretty excited about that because like you, I like the Tom Holland stuff.
surprise!
But yeah, like and especially like with Sony involved with it because Sony has their own unique angle of doing their projects. So you have stuff like Venom that looks like it's probably going to cross over with the MCU too, and then also with how their animation house approaches stuff differently than Disney animation, which arguably resulted in Spider-Man. God, the Miles Morales movie. I'm spacing
Into the Spider-Verse.
Into the Spider-Verse, yeah. Where, like, I mean, I'm not trying to dig on Disney here because they do good animation too, but I loved the avant-garde choices that they made in that movie that were like animating it more like a comic book, and
It was incredible.
yeah,
Fucking
and
fantastic.
and I don't know that I would ever peg Disney as doing something like that. Like I think that they would try to over smooth it, where the way they chose to do it actually paid respectful homage to the fact that it's coming from a comic book. Like it actually celebrated the medium in a subtle way, and like that's still mind blowing to me. We watch that movie every once in a while still, and it's just like jaw dropping in the choices that they made. And I think that's what happens when you have multiple different studios and different groups that can make stories in a medium like that they don't have one overlord telling them these are the boxes you need to check, this is how it needs to look. They have people that can kick the can a little bit and or not kick the can but kick the box over and say, well, let's try something different, let's try incorporating this 2D medium into our moving project. And it made something that was genre defining. So I'm really excited about that. And I love the whole long form storytelling they're doing. I'm still kind of not, because I don't read the comics myself. I just have friends that do, so they fill me in. But like, I'm still not entirely sure where they're going with this current phase of MCU. Because, for quite a while during the last phase, you had friends going, oh, it's Thanos. They're building up Thanos. So, okay, I know then. This one, I'm still not sure. Like, I don't know who the main big bad is. I'm having fun with it as it is right now, but eventually it would be nice to know. And this is Mom.
Hi, guys.
Hi,
Hello.
Mom.
How you doing?
Good.
Good. How are you?
Cigarettes.
All right, I will be done in here in a few minutes if you guys want.
You want to go?
Sure.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
And
Nice
this is
meeting
Trev.
you.
And this is Trev.
Trev, what's
Trev.
going on, dude?
Nice to meet you.
Tell him about Diamond Rutabaga.
Oh yeah, so Trev, remember in DC Universe Online where you made Diamond Rodriguez?
Yeah.
I told him that story and he forgot the name of the character. He's like, so what was your brother's character again? Diamond Rutabaga? And so they're saying now that you have to make a character named Diamond Rutabaga someday.
Oh, shit. I haven't played that game pretty much since it launched. I platted it and dropped it.
Yeah.
So
It's okay. The Marvel MMO.
The
Yeah.
Marvel MMO.
Yeah, the team that did it is making a Marvel MMO now.
oh shit.
Yeah.
Good reaction.
All right, so I'll be with you guys in a few minutes.
All right. See you guys. Have a good night.
You too. Take care, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
But yeah, so
Go ahead,
I'm
finish.
excited. Like I think it. I think it's good, but like like I said, the big thing is, and I think this kind of ties into what Destiny said, is that you don't want one monopoly controlling everything, because
Mhm.
you lose creativity at that point. Because I mean, even then, like Disney has a really cool style, but all their stuff is in a lot of ways in their style. You can tell something is Disney fairly early on when you're watching it, and
Mhm.
you don't want just that one style all the time. You want different people to come in and be able to do their thing.
Well said. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it birthed Into the Spider-Verse, which is one of, if not the best Spider-Man movies anyway. So
Yes.
yeah, I mean, I'm all for them being weirder with it. I'm just happy that Tom Holland is sticking around and we're gonna get more of him. And I hope they get a little bit weirder with it on Sony's side too, because I actually liked Venom and Venom 2. I'm actually
Yeah.
kind of excited for Morbius. So be weird, do more shit. But that brings us to the end of the show. I'm gonna pass it back over to Destiny.
Oh, okay.
Catch the ball.
So,
Catch the ball.
oh,
Catch the
God.
ball.
I don't like catching the ball because
Catch
you
the
never
ball.
put. I caught it.
Catch the
you
ball.
never put me
the
in the
ball.
right. You never put me in the right space, and then I just look like an idiot with my
Catch this
arms
ball
waving
too.
around. No, that was pretty good. But anyways, thank you so much, Josh. That was an incredible surprise. Your brother and mom popping in.
Yeah,
at the
right.
end.
That was awesome.
I'm not gonna lie, because the camera, the feed through is kind of blurry. I thought she was sneaking up behind you to hit you in the back of the head. And I did not know, because her arm was up with her keys, and she
Yeah.
just quietly came
Josh about to
in.
get smacked.
Yeah, no,
When you watch this later on YouTube, look at my face. You can tell I'm very confused and concerned at the same time, and I don't know what to do.
Amazing.
And like really quickly before we go, like I
Mhm.
just wanted to double check. You guys wanted me to send you the video of like the like roller coaster I did in Little Big Planet.
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
yeah, yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes, please.
Send
As
us
well-
anything you want us to showcase, homie.
Yeah.
We
All
got
right,
you.
And I'll send you the pitch video for Shared Soul too. Keep in mind it's rough and early, and then also a
Mhm.
video of Burst, and like
No, I want
Yeah.
to see it.
we're going for
But
some stuff.
before you,
Oh,
I'm sorry, I'm gonna cut you just really quick.
Yeah, yeah.
Before you go, just drop. I know you have so many. Drop your website and your Twitter again for us. And we are definitely, guys, we are going to have all the information down below. But just so
Mhm.
you can hear it one more time, what was that? Twitter? And what
Twitter.com.
was yours?
Yeah, sorry. Twitter.com
It's okay.
/ZookeyTK, ZOOKEYTK. That's also my Instagram and my TikTok handle. And then for our website, it's Team Kaizen, and Kaizen is spelled K as in King, A as in Apple, I as in Indigo, Z as in Zebra, E as in Elephant, N as in Nancy. Games, GAMES.com. And then Attitudes, ADDATUDEZ, is our Twitch handle, and that's like our main company, like Team Kaizen and Ingenium, our studios under Attitudes. And yeah, like we would love to, hang out with you all online. One thing I might be asking the community's help for on soonish is we did just pitch Burst to a project, that like a competition that's going on, where we'll find out if we're officially accepted in March, and if we are, we will need people to vote for us that we could get funding for the game.
Hell yeah. Yeah, please come back on and talk to us about it then.
Yeah.
We'll make sure we'll get people kind of
definitely do a highlight for it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks for coming on. Don't keep your mom and your brother waiting.
Yeah.
We need your computer to stay on for just a second because we have to like upload stuff. But that is going to be it from us. Josh, can you say bye?
Bye. Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Matt, can you say bye?
See you later, alligator.
Guys, see you later.
Bye.
Guys, did you see how excited I was? You saw that?
So excited.
I was pretty
I
excited.
felt it.
Did you feel it?
I'm Matt, by the way.